Before we jump into this video, I just wanted to take a moment here to note that both MRSSSTIX and I stream over on Twitch every Tuesday, every Saturday, and every Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and an hour after this video we're actually going to be going live. So if you have a bit of time to spare, or you just want to hang as we start an adventure in a brand new MMORPG, come on over and join us on Twitch. Now welcome back to another Weekly Byte of MMORPG news, a series where we cover every bit of MMO related news that mattered to me over the course of the week, that I think is important, that I believe needs highlighting. If this is your first time here, then consider subscribing to the channel for new MMO news like this every day, for general MMO discussions, MMO giveaways, and if you feel like I deserve it, drop a like and a comment on the video. It's a huge help for the YouTube algorithm. Now, we have quite a bit to talk about today. Updates on MMOs that I thought would never receive an update ever again, multiple global confirmations for MMOs that we have been eagerly anticipating, and more. So, sit down, grab yourself a milkshake, and let's jump into this week's Weekly Byte of MMORPG news. Let's start this off with Soulworker. As of Friday, the Soulworker dev team have implemented a limited time raid, the heroic version of Lunarfall. Completing this raid will reward players with the crafting materials necessary to craft the best gear in the game right now. This content is meant for players at level 72 and also includes the addition of alterations to both XP and Zenny accumulation. The raid will be available from now until December 9th. Additionally, the in-game store is going to feature some limited time cosmetic items to accompany the limited time raid, so you might want to get them while they're available. Speaking of new content coming to an MMO, while Elyon has lost quite a bit of its active player base, I mean, it has less active players than Bless Unleashed already. It is worth noting, however, that they are introducing the brand new Archer class into the game in 2022. Yeah, not only was the Slayer recently released, but the Archer is coming in the near future as well. Kakao haven't confirmed when specifically players can expect the new class, nor what type of content will accompany it, but it is promising to see that they are willing to invest so much time and so much effort into a game when its Western player base is, at this juncture, almost non-existent. Now, did you guys know that Daybreak were in the process of working on a Marvel-inspired MMORPG at one point? That could have legitimately been huge. I'm honestly not sure what happened to the game. I haven't done any research into finding out why it ultimately got canceled, or if it even got canceled. But it has been confirmed that Daybreak, Dimensional Inc. in specific, are working on a currently unannounced Marvel MMORPG. Is this the same one? Is this a different one? Who knows? But it could be some serious competition to DC Universe Online and could make ripples in the MMOverse, given how few AAA budget companies actually develop them. The game is being spearheaded by the very same guy who designed and helmed City of Heroes though. So, the NCSoft are... well, they're very back and forth on what they want to call this game. On the one hand, it was initially called Lineage Eternal. Then they decided to alter that to Project TL, aka Project The Lineage, after which they thought, you know what, The Lineage Throne and Liberty was a good choice, before opting to just go right on back to Project TL. And if you made it through that mess with your sanity, then congratulations, because I almost got lost saying it out loud. Now, we have been eagerly anticipating this game since it was announced years ago, and surprisingly, it was just confirmed by NCSoft themselves in their latest financial report that they are looking to feature a simultaneous global launch next year. If that is not a reassuring confirmation, then I really do not know what is. And since we're on the topic of Korean MMOs releasing globally in 2022, did you know that Kakao confirmed their newest MMO, ODIN Valhalla Rising, would be launching globally next year? Yeah, after becoming one of the most successful MMORPGs in South Korea this year. Kakao are already in the process of localizing the game for us Western players. And while I wouldn't necessarily be too excited to hear this information, what does have me excited is the fact that they have confirmed that they are contemplating removing any and all autoplay functionality from the game. If you recall, autoplay was my main issue with the game. If it loses the auto combat, then I think this could potentially be a solid MMO, and I truly hope that Kakao do go through with this. I think this is probably the third time we're mentioning Kakao today, right? Jeez. This time though, it's actually concerning ArcheAge Unchained, which Kakao recently acquired from Gamigo. You should all be aware that Exile Games and Kakao are working together on an ArcheAge 2 MMORPG. So, Kakao obtaining the rights to ArcheAge and ArcheAge Unchained is a type of natural progression. What is most concerning to me, however, is the reveal that after both titles relaunch under Kakao, ArcheAge Unchained will be transitioning to a pay-to-play subscription business model. And while all players who purchased the game years ago will receive some free playtime, to continue playing the game long term, you are going to be required to pay a monthly subscription. Yeah, that is happening. Now, in news that I never thought I would ever have the pleasure of covering, it turns out that Aura Kingdom is receiving a fairly large new update in the form of its new Skyriders patch, introducing 5 floors to the Sky Tower and 4 dungeons for players to tackle. I mean, sure, I don't know anyone that still actively plays Aura Kingdom, but you know what, this might be incentive for a few players to return to it. And since we're on the topic of Gamigo games right now, it was confirmed that Rift is actually going to have its first great update in the first quarter of 2022, which is news that I don't think anyone ever saw coming. Rift, after all, has gone a very long time with no real form of updates. Many players thought that Rift was abandoned and would be the next game the company loses. However, as is evidence to the contrary, with the loss of ArcheAge, Gamigo is buckling down and attempting to hold on to any and all players they can. Then, interestingly enough, Gamigo recently confirmed that they are working on an entirely new MMORPG. An MMORPG that has a quote-unquote growing community already that features a large sandbox world. This is the largest undertaking they have ever had, even larger in scale than ArcheAge. Literally nothing is known about the game currently, not its combat style, not its graphical style, not whether it's a Western MMO or an Eastern MMO. Heck, we don't even know if it's coming in 2022 or 2023. All we know is it's supposedly a very large MMO, and that Gamigo will find some way to ruin it. Hada Studio, the dev team behind the upcoming Tower Fantasy MMO, went on to confirm this week that the game is finally launching in China, its country of origin. What this means is that everyone can successfully play the game without limitations imposed from a closed beta test. There's also a rumor going around that they may also be in the process of getting their localization team together in an attempt to bring the game over to the West at last. While the former is 100% confirmed, the latter is not. So we're gonna have to wait and see how this fully pans out. Either way, you can log in and play in Chinese in literally just a couple weeks. Now, I haven't covered Mortal Online 2 really. Why? Because the original Mortal Online wasn't really very successful, and this seemed more or less the same, and that never really appealed to me. Regardless, some players were anticipating the game, and as such, I feel as though I should inform you all that the game is currently available right now for $40. I know I mentioned a couple months ago, that the dev team stated that they just weren't ready for early access yet, but apparently they changed their mind, and they are now for whatever reason. So Mysticis Family were down during the Lost Ark closed beta test, so I didn't really get the opportunity to participate in it. Nevertheless, I do have over 100 hours of experience within the game via the Russian version of it, or streaming the Russian version of it more specifically. so it really wasn't that large of an issue for me. However, players were hoping that Amazon would give a little bit more of a concrete confirmation as to when the game would be releasing, as from what I heard, there weren't really many issues encountered. Sure, there were some disappointed players as it didn't turn out to be the kind of game that they'd expected, that they'd anticipated it being, but for those of us that know exactly what this game is, they were pleasantly surprised by how enjoyable it was. But even after the beta test, all we have is just sometime in early 2022 for a release in the West. And that is it. That is every bit of MMO related news that mattered to me over the last couple years. Sure, there is probably more out there, but it's not really significant enough for me to really dedicate time to. This is what is important, but if you think that there's something I missed, please go ahead and let me know via any platform I'm available on Discord, on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, or heck, even in the comment section below.
Someday soon, I'm gonna make it.